we decided that we were going to not fade from history in a mediocre fashion. We had to take a risk. And that risk was to recapitalize the company on an asset which, on paper, from first principles, looks better. It looks like a big tech monopoly. It looks like digital gold. If it's digital gold, it's 100 times better than gold. If it's the next unrecognized digital monopoly, it's going to grow by 10 to 30, right? Find something everybody needs, nobody can stop, and few people understand, right? Where most people just don't agree with you. And when it's a non-consensus thing from first principles, there is an opportunity. And we've seen these things throughout the history of business. We were inspired and we were catalyzed by our history and by the events of 2020. And I think the results speak for themselves.
This is Michael Saylor sitting here telling you that Bitcoin has gone corporate. And right now there are buyers in the space buying all the Bitcoin they can. We'll talk about that before the video's out. So make sure you watch this one until the end. With that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you. Another cryptocurrency video. Getting straight into it. The current time it's recording, Bitcoin's coming in at 96.3K. What do we see? What we anticipate? Bitcoin is just consolidating above support. Now, could we have some sideways chop for some time? Could we come back down, retest these levels around 93.7, 93.5? And could we just wait for this 20 moving average to catch up to the price action? So this could be happening over the next few weeks, just sideways chop. Might not take that long, but as you see, we are consolidating above the 93.7K range, which is actually the support. When we fell through it and fell down to a basement, came back up, retest. A lot of volatility, but all in all, Bitcoin's looking bullish. And this website right here, treasuries.bitbo.io, something for you definitely to pay attention to. This is the Bitcoin treasuries for public companies that own Bitcoin. As you see, MicroStrategy is in the lead with 555,000 plus Bitcoin. So one thing to pay attention to, one company to pay attention to, is this company right here, MetaPlanet. MetaPlanet is a Japanese-based company, hotel business that flipped to a Bitcoin treasury, and they've acquired these 5,000 Bitcoin over the past 6-7 months. They just made a new purchase. Right here, they acquired an additional 555 Bitcoin. And then while doing that, they issued another 25 million US dollars in 0% ordinary bonds to purchase more Bitcoin. So that will probably give them close to another 300 Bitcoin, maybe 250, give or take, depending on what price points they get. But MetaPlanet is something to pay attention to. This isn't the latest, so this is 5555. And if you look at this number right here and then look at MicroStrategy, they've been outpacing MicroStrategy, not as far as Bitcoin acquisition, because obviously there's more liquidity that MicroStrategy can gain access to, but they have now crossed over the 1% threshold of the amount of Bitcoin that MicroStrategy own. So they're continuing to buy. This will be updated to 5555, so they have right now today 1% of MicroStrategy's total holdings. This is a micro cap company. This is right above $1 billion, 1.4, $1.5 billion. A lot of opportunity in the years to come. Real Plan C showing the Bitcoin quantile model research. We have not got up to the red area yet. That's when you want to sell and go home. Pack your bags. We haven't even made it up there yet. Will we see this before the end of 2026? There's probably a high chance that that could happen. But all in all, right here, the red band is 212 to 264 by November. If history's any indication of when we're going to see a previous peak, well, look here. By 2030, 615,000 to $713,000. Major, massive gains in Bitcoin. And right here, New Hampshire becomes the first state to pass a strategic Bitcoin reserve into law. Landmark win built on Satoshi Actions model policy establishes blueprint for the nation. So this is the strategic Bitcoin reserve in law. It's starting to, the tide is starting to turn. And if you don't see what's happening, you're going to have states buying, institutions buying, countries buying. Everybody's going to be buying Bitcoin. There's only 21 million. Did you get to that one coin yet? Tom Lee's weighing in on the price action on Bitcoin, the S&P, and what he sees. Let's hear from Tom Lee.
A surge in inflation. They survived the Fed hiking at the fastest rate ever. So I think this tariff shock, while it is shocking, I think earnings will probably outperform expectations. I mean, that'd be one thing. And then I think the things that were leading us down, whether it's Tesla or the Mag 7 or Bitcoin, they've begun to recover. In fact, as you know, Bitcoin's above its April 2nd level. So Bitcoin, I think, is telling us the S&P should recover towards the 5,800 level in the near term. And that's still upside from here.
And just a reminder, we like to show this chart because this is the median new U.S. home priced in Bitcoin. In 2012, it cost over 50,000 Bitcoin to buy a home. 2016, a little less than 700 Bitcoin. 2020, a little less than 46 Bitcoin. 2024, a little less, or 5 Bitcoin. So you're looking over an 8-year window from 50,000 down to 5. So it dropped 1, 2, 3, 4 digits. It divided this number by 10,000. So if that's any indication of where Bitcoin's going, what is this number going to be by next 12 years? What's this number going to be by 2036? You be the judge. And without further ado, we'll leave you with this, an update from Michael Saylor. He's talking about he's continuing to buy Bitcoin. He's using AI to buy Bitcoin, but he's talking in the latest conference in MicroStrategy world. Check out what Michael has to say.
That way, and then not a long time ago came along Deep Research, and that was a big aha moment because first I used an order of magnitude more computing power, and then I used 2 orders of magnitude more computing power, and then I started asking questions via Deep Research. Well, how would you design this security, or is this possible? I have a question which would require 5 lawyers and 3 financiers to answer, and it would take them 2 weeks to answer. And I would put this chat in Deep Research mode, and I would grind it, and it would grind through 50 sources and work for 15 minutes and come back. And it doesn't necessarily give me the answer that I can immediately act on, but it gives me somewhere between 80 and 95% of what I need. And then I take that to the finance department. I take that to the legal department. So a lot of our innovative capital markets activity, things like Strife, things like Strike, we had to fight through all sorts of complicated legal issues, complicated financial issues. You know, we did a convertible preferred stock. It had never been done before. We listed on NASDAQ. It had never been done before. We attached a shelf registration to it. It had never been done before. We made it a perpetual dividend, good for 1,000 years. It had never been done before. We created a perpetual call option. It had never been done before. We put a shelf registration on it. Never been done before. Now, when you go to 25 professionals with 30 years experience, say, I want to do 20 things that have never been done before, and I want to do them in a hurry. I need an answer in the next 48 hours. Right? That creates a very stressful situation. And what I found with AI is the AI doesn't have a lot of ego. I can ask it a question. I can tell it that's not right. I can tell it that's stupid. I can disagree. I can work through my issues. And then after I've gone through 20 iterations, which would have ground human beings into a pulp, you know, I can then take the 95% answer to the finance team and the legal team and the bankers and the market and say, I think this is plausible. And I don't just share the result. I share the link. I say, go into the chat. You know, I've uploaded 27 documents. I've actually had to grind through case law of every public company that's ever done this before. I've analyzed the finance. I think it's more likely than not this will work. And at that point, when you've taken the process to 95%, you can then get to a result and build consensus. And half of AI is about consensus and doing it in a cheerful, constructive way, right? When I'm yelling, I prefer to yell at the AI, right? I really want to do this. No, you can't. Well, what if I do this? No, well, and eventually you get to a point where maybe you can move forward. And I can say, with a high degree of confidence, right? A lot of the things we've done in the capital markets, we just couldn't have done that. Those two preferred stocks, Strife and Strife, are the first AI designed securities that I know of, certainly in our industry. So I've been inspired by it, and I think we're just scratching the surface. The next step will be to go from deep research, which is where by the way, I went from the $20 a month, you get a few of these things, to the $200 a month subscription where you get unlimited, to the we're cutting you off because even unlimited, we think you're burning our silicon. Yeah, I think we're going to go from deep research to agents where I just say, hey, you work for me, scan everything in the Twitter sphere today about knowing what I think, and tell me what I should say, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do it. And then scan the capital markets. I tend to ask questions like, look at every single publicly traded company and give me the open interest divided by their market cap and the liquidity and the trend of the liquidity, and then tell me where we stand. Click. Okay. And the next step will be, well, why don't you just do that every day? And then, so what I think I've learned is we're going to consume exponentially more silicon and exponentially more electricity and digital power, because that's the way you break through to the new idea and the new market. And you just can't go the 20th century way. You can't even do things the way we did it 3-4 years ago. And in the words of Magnus Carlsen, it's too weak, it's too slow. You have to be faster and stronger and smarter.